Director from Milwaukee County Parks. And so we've got some exciting news today. And we also want to talk a little bit about the status of our 2020 budget and 2021 budget in the light of the pandemic. So thank you again for joining us for the second Love Your Parks media event. Last month, we launched this important campaign down at the lakefront on July 3rd with the community call to action in support of Milwaukee County Parks. Today, as part of the Love Your Parks, we are excited to announce a very unique partnership between Milwaukee County Parks and Stone Creek Coffee. I'd like to introduce Mr. David Crawley, Milwaukee County Executive, and Stone Creek's Director of Retail and Operations, Drew Pond. And together, we're going to celebrate this launch of this exciting partnership and provide more background on the current state of Milwaukee County Park System and field your questions. So Mr. County Executive, would you be so kind and announce the fruits of this exciting partnership?
Just wanted to make sure it's still morning. So I'm really excited to share that our amazing partners with Stone Creek Coffee, they've really stepped up to help support this amazing campaign by creating a special Love Your Parks roast, which is going to be on a limited time basis, available on a limited time basis, but it's going to be available at Stone Creek Coffee and online. And Stone Creek Coffee really recognizes the value our parks have in our community's quality of life, and we certainly recognize the value of great coffee. Drew will give more details on the run, and I'd like to talk a moment about our park system, which makes Milwaukee so incredibly special. But also, we desperately need your support. It's no secret that parks are crucial to the physical, mental, and emotional well-being of our community, now more than ever, especially during these times. They are essential in supporting our lands, water, wildlife, and vegetation, which directly supports our quality of life. And many people forget that our parks are a secret economic engine to this community. They increase property values, improve local tax base, and is cited as one of the top 3 reasons that people relocate to a particular community. And growing up here in the city of Milwaukee, I know what it means to live in a community where a park system like ours exists. And make no mistake about it, I truly believe that we have a really remarkable system. But Milwaukee County Parks is at a crossroads right now, and our funding mechanism to sustain our parks are broken. County residents contribute about $1.50 per month to parks through their taxes. These dollars make up about 40% of parks' annual budget. The remaining 60% of our annual budget is funded through user fees and revenues. During this global pandemic, it has really magnified and accelerated the reality that the fiscal model that has funded our park system for years is failing, and a new long-term funding solution is desperately needed. Parks are primarily a contributor to our quality of life and direct reflection of our community. They represent our social identity and are one of the most important factors that makes our community livable. But I will say great coffee does that too. So with that being said, I want to turn it over to Drew, who's going to tell you a little bit more about the Love Your Parks roast that Stone Creek Coffee will be offering. Thank you.
Thanks. It is really a privilege to be here and partner with really what we love to do at Stone Creek is support as best we can local community organizations. And I can't think of anything like more integral to just general family and community health than having beautiful spaces for us to socialize in, as difficult as that is today as we face the continuing pandemic of COVID-19. But as a company, as we face these times like this, there's not a lot we can do as a local small business, but what we do have as Stone Creek Coffee is coffee. And so it was a privilege for us to partner with Milwaukee Parks to say, listen, we have coffee, what can we do with that? And for us, using some creative coffee geek energy, it was, well, let's create a coffee. And we love Parks and Recreation, the show, as I'm sure many of you do, and so that became kind of our inspiration for the design as we worked on this coffee, which is actually a blend of 2 of our farm to cup relationships, one out of Brazil with Carmel Coffees and the Alta Vista farm, and then the other one out of Burundi with Long Miles Coffee. So we used those two coffees as blend components to create a coffee that we just thought went well with the outdoors. It's a coffee you can drink every day and enjoy and let it fuel both your relationships and then what you're doing, whether that's sports, whether that's exercise, whether it's just time with family and friends. So happy to be here today and just support and try and raise awareness and support for Milwaukee Parks and do what we can as a local coffee company. You can get the coffee at any of our cafes, our 11 cafes around the greater Milwaukee area, and at stonecreekcoffee.com. $2 of every half-pound purchased is going to go directly to the Milwaukee Parks Foundation. So again, just another way we can do a little bit to help. So pleased to be here. Thank you all for your time. Turn it back over to Guy.
Thank you so much, Drew, and for the partnership. It is truly a pleasure and exciting. But I also think it's important as Milwaukee County as a whole is building the budget for 2021 and obviously the status of us in 2020 with the pandemic. It's affected us just like any private business, public entity, or nonprofit. So I just wanted to share some thoughts with you. The story's not new, but the reality is growing starker every day. Funding for Milwaukee County Parks is unsustainable. Through the years, and even with the challenges of COVID-19, our staff have maintained the system by providing a strong level of service that unfortunately gives a false sense of security. Through the years, park staff have been forced to do more with less and less. And up to this summer, residents haven't really felt that urgency of the park situation. Most still don't recognize parks' very real needs. Over the last 30+ years, Parks' full-time staff has been drastically cut. In the 1980s, Parks had over 1,300 full-time employees and staff. Today, we have 240, only 240 full-time staff. And during that time, our system footprint has grown, and our services have significantly expanded. We know that community perceives Parks as essential, and I understand that. But the perception does not reflect our fiscal reality. There's no legal requirement to fund our parks, and the state does not recognize that the parks are a mandatory service. At this point, there's nothing left to trim but services, and that's not something we want to do, but it's the reality. Over the past decade, operations, equipment, and supplies have been cut past clean. Our staff have carried the burden of these cuts for years, doing more with less and less. And I just want to point out that we have a lot of friends groups here. We have partners in Westtown visit Milwaukee. We have other elected officials, and I know that you folks totally understand this, but I just am trying to get the message out there. For our 2020 budget update, I want to give you a bit of an update on our situation. Obviously, the pandemic was a game changer. Parks relies heavily on seasonal labor to support parks operations, and we normally hire more than 900 seasonal positions every summer. This year, due to COVID-19, we've only been able to hire under 200 seasonal staff. And many of these seasonal support revenue generating functions rather than core park services like trash collection and mowing. Because of these seasonal labor hiring freezes, we were able to recover about $4.8 million in savings to close in on a parks projected 2020 budget gap of $10 million. That's $10 million of a $40 million operating budget. We cannot emphasize enough the toll that these freezes have had on our full-time staff and our services. The season has been like none other, and our parks team has carried the weight to continue providing services to the community. We've redeployed 92 non-operation staff to the field for 1 to 2 shifts or more per week to support with basic mowing and other services. 220 of our full-time staff have been furloughed for at least the last several months and working 36-hour weeks. In terms of 2020 service reductions, unfortunately our deep well pools and community centers remain closed, as do the sports complex and the Ware Nature Center and Mitchell Park domes. As we all know, within the city of Milwaukee and Milwaukee County, there's several special events that have been unfortunately canceled. That include the July 3rd fireworks, the Lakefront Air Show, concerts and festivals have been canceled. Half of our wading pools and splash beds thankfully have been open for this year to provide some summer relief. The pandemic, coupled with our unsustainable funding model, have all taken its toll, to say the least. So as I mentioned, we're in the process of our 2021 proposed budget. And we will move on to brighter things. As many of you know, I'm a very positive person. But again, I'm here to point out the issues of the dire financial straits we're in. Parks faces roughly a $1 million reduction next year in tax levy, continuing the trend of increased department reductions we've seen over the last several years. This reduction is proposed to be met through temporary facility closures that will provide savings in seasonal labor, utilities, commodities, and services. This will include aquatic reductions, delayed opening of indoor deep well pools, and we're looking at nominal fee increases for golf permits, marina slips, and boat launch fees. We're working hard to preserve our full-time workforce because they're the lifeblood of our park system and because it is such a small group. Without a drastic change in funding sources, these reductions will continue, every year requiring additional reduction in park services, facilities, programs, and resources in the foreseeable future. Now, while it might sound dramatic, we need to be clear on what this means for the reality of our system. Our core services in park services, facilities, programs, and resources will deteriorate, and general park operations with revenue-generating functions like golf marina operations, food and beverage sales surviving. And we realize that this is unbalanced, and we need to be able to support all of our services. Parks has managed past budget reductions by increasing our revenue operations and generation and cutting expenses across the board, but this has taken a significant toll on our staff and our system, and will have a real toll on services moving forward. As in previous years, especially with COVID-19, funding for Parks capital projects will be lean at best. And also, Parks revenue is incumbent upon large group gatherings. As we know, that's a challenge with COVID-19. We're living it right now. So that's examples would be concerts, marathons, air show, rentals. The COVID pandemic has continued to bring these opportunities to bear, and also to halt over the last several months, and will continue to do so in the foreseeable future. Parks has nearly $1 million at risk revenue next year due to the uncertainty of large events and being able to gather. And finally, every year, Parks struggles to fund its annually operating budget, and County is unable to adequately fund the $300 to $400 million in Parks deferred maintenance and capital costs. Milwaukee County Park System funding has been broken for years, so going back to the way things were pre-COVID will not provide a long-term fix. Now is the time. We need to grow community support to find innovative, creative ways to fund our parks in the future. For a brief few minutes, if the media has any questions for myself or the county executive, we would be happy to take those. And if not, certainly I have some other remarks for the closing of the program. So at this time, if there's anything for County Executive Crowley or myself, please let me know. Don?
Hey Guy, I'm not with the media, but I just wanted to share. I'm Don Schwartz, the founder of the Friends of Hales Corners Park and Pool. I'm very happy to hear about Stone Creek. Drew, I don't know how long you've been in Stone Creek, but we've had a relationship with you probably for 12 years where we've been buying your coffee and selling it out in the community, making it our friends' coffee, but it's really your coffee. So I'm real pleased to hear this. I think it's got tremendous potential, and we've got a lot of coffee drinkers in Milwaukee County.
Thank you, Don, and that is a really good point. We've definitely purchased some coffee in my family from the Friends of Hales Corners, and thanks to Stone Creek for jump-starting that. Virginia.
Is there any goal of trying to get a long-term sustainable solution such as a sales tax increase that is designated for Milwaukee County parks?
Long-term funding solutions are going to continue to be a part of Milwaukee County's goal. We are working not only within Milwaukee County and the partners here, but across the state as we continue to look at the fair deal and the sales tax. We know that local municipalities need more direct and flexible funding, not only to get and keep people safe during this pandemic, but also post-pandemic when you think about the critical services that we have to continue to provide. So absolutely.
And thank you for that question, Virginia. It's very valid, and we are definitely working as a department, working closely with the county executive office and also with the county board to think through creative solutions, and yes, long-term, looking for sustainability. So, I know that was a little bit of a Debbie Downer there for a second, but I will tell you that there is a lot of positivity that we're still trying to do. We're trying to get the word out there that we need your help, and Stone Creek is one of those great partners that has really stepped up. So in closing, some reminders that as part of the Love Your Parks campaign, there's many things you can do to support your parks right now. And one of those is to volunteer. And that's why I'm looking at the Friends groups. I've got Friends of Lincoln here, Friends of Sheridan, Preserve Our Parks, many other folks that are here actually in my car right now. I've got a bunch of Brew Hero buckets and pickers, and we're gonna actually be doing a cleanup with the county executive and his staff at Kosciuszko Park on Saturday morning. So that's one way that you can help. Another one is to donate to the Milwaukee Parks Foundation, and we have Pa here representing the foundation, and we really appreciate how they're helping to help fund us and also to look through how we can best support Milwaukee County with a racial equity lens. Also, you can help by sharing your story on why you love your parks, and you can do all of these things on our new Parks Explorer app, which is actually located at loveyourparksmke.com. That's loveyourparksmke.com. The Love Your Parks Coffee Roast is now on sale, as Drew said, through August 26th at Stone Creek Coffee Shops and the Stone Creek website. And again, $2 from every bag that's purchased will go directly to the Milwaukee Parks Foundation. Also, I encourage you tonight to please tune into a Facebook Live event at 8 p.m. to hear more conversation about parks and Stone Creek coffee with Drew Pond, who's here with us today, and also Jen Francis, our Deputy Parks Director, and they're going to talk more about our partnership. And as I discussed, parks resources have been in jeopardy for some time. Deferred maintenance has long been an issue, and the impacts of COVID-19 are adding to the extreme challenges of our non-mandated, revenue-dependent park system, and it threatens our viability. The park system is yours. It's your backyard, and we need your help to create change, ensuring that our park system is alive and well for our children and their children and beyond. And I sincerely thank you on behalf of the county executive and on behalf of the Parks Department for joining us today, and we're very grateful for your support. Thank you.